Good morning. I think I'm now live. I've still got a swirly thing on my computer. Okay, good morning. We are live with the Tibetan Buddhist Society of Canberra. This is our regular Sunday guided meditation and talk. My name is Jeff Newton. I've been a fairly long-standing student, participant with the Society now for about 10 years. So welcome to everybody who's going to join me this morning for this guided meditation and talk. We have a couple of minutes, so I won't start straight away. By my clock, it's 2 minutes to 11. I'd hate for people to miss out on the very beginning, so we'll just wait until 11, if that's okay with you. So today's talk, we're going to go through the usual calm abiding meditation that we do every Sunday. And really, maybe now's a good opportunity for me to explain that the point of these Sunday programs is to reinforce the calm abiding practice that people learn during a 8-week calm abiding course. So the idea is that not only is it here just for anybody and everybody to tune in and listen and get an idea of what's happening, but the one of the ideas of this Sunday program is that once you've done an 8-week calm abiding course and you've learnt the technique in detail, then you sort of top up that technique, I suppose, each week by just tuning in to these Sunday programs where we guide you through the calm abiding as you would have learnt in the 8-week course, and then do some sort of talk. So feel free to join in with the meditation and then leave if you don't want to listen to the talk. Feel free to just join in for the talk if you don't meditate or haven't done the 8-week calm abiding. So each week we do try to, whoever is doing this, if it's not Rinpoche, that is. During COVID, it's been a little bit weird because Rinpoche is not weird, just different. Rinpoche has been taking Sunday sessions and sort of talking about particular things, his causes of sanity. So once COVID is sort of under control and we go back to regular Sunday guided meditation, it'll be, as I just said, a half hour or so of calm abiding meditation and then half hour or so of some talk. And that's probably because Rinpoche, Lama Chodek Rinpoche, will be off traveling, as he usually does. Most weekends he's often about delivering courses, conducting retreats, and that sort of thing. And that's where he is this weekend. He is actually leading the 4-day calm abiding retreat that is up at our Varupa Retreat Centre, just outside of Canberra, in the beautiful hills just on the other side of Queanbeyan. It's an absolutely beautiful view and a lovely, quiet place. If you are interested in doing some private solo retreat, we have 4 cabins up at Varupa, which you can book. I'm not exactly sure how much it costs, so I won't tell you a figure. But you can book them pretty much any time throughout the year, and if they're free, you can go up there on your own, sit in the cabin and practice your insight meditation, your calm abiding meditation, whatever it is, your medicine Buddha, whatever you wish to practice, you can do it on your own, and you will have somebody there at Varupa to support you. There will be a coordinator there to help you with food and all of that sort of thing. So if you're interested in booking a solo retreat at our Varupa Retreat Centre, just sort of half an hour's drive outside Canberra, then please send us an email at mail@sakya.com.au and we'll let you know how it works. I thought I'd just mention that because some people don't realise that you can book in to do a solo retreat up at Varupa Retreat Centre. Anyway, back to what I was originally saying. These Sunday programs were originally designed that once you've done your 8-week calm abiding course and you've learnt the technique in detail, some of the fine elements might drop away, can drop away. So these Sunday guided meditation sessions were there to top you up, so to speak. You could join in with with a group, a sangha to some degree, and bring back to memory those things you may have forgotten about the practice, and even ask questions about things that you might have missed during the course. They're also very much designed for new people. So we do talk you through the process of calm abiding. So anybody who's brand new, never meditated before, they are also welcome, and you are also welcome to participate if you wish. Okay, I think that's enough talking. It is now just a little bit past 11. I have a few people watching me live, so welcome. Thank you very much for joining me. And of course, this recording will go up on Facebook once we've finished. So in case you missed it, my name is Jeff Newton. I've been with the Society for about 10 years. I did my first 8-week calm abiding course under Lama Chodak Rinpoche. I can't remember, 2012 or 2013, something like that. And I've been practicing calm abiding and teaching it ever since. I did do the 10-day retreat at Siba. I did the trainer course under Rinpoche as well. So I am sort of authorized, according to him, to teach this. So we might get started, if that's okay with you. If you have any questions, pop them into the chat box and I'll see how I go at answering them. So before we get started, let's say the prayers of refuge and enlightenment. The first verse we say 3 times. So if you don't know it, please just follow along with me. If you do know it, then join in. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment. By virtue of giving and the like, I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment. By virtue of giving and the like, I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. In the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, I take refuge till enlightenment. By virtue of giving and the like, I shall reach Buddhahood to aid beings. May all beings have happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far. And if you would settle yourself into a comfortable seating position, be that on a chair or on the floor, we will begin our practice. And as the traditional 3 rings of the singing bowl dissipates into the atmosphere, we bring our attention fully to our body. And we'll begin with some body scanning. Starting with our toes, we scan our body, moving up our shins to our knees and scanning from our knees up to our thighs, up to the hips. We're checking not only the posture of our sits, but we are giving thanks and gratitude for our legs, which is the earth element. The earth element will bring stability and strength to our practice. Now, as we begin to turn around our hips and follow our spine, up each vertebrae. Again, we check our posture that is nice and straight and tall. If we are in a chair, we are not leaning back against the back of the seat. We are sitting upright. Not too stiff that we will get sore, but straight enough that the fire element, which is represented by our spine, will bring energy to our practice. If you ever find you are getting lazy or sleepy, it is probably because you are slumping and your back is not straight. We continue scanning up to our shoulders, And we turn down our arms, down our upper arms to our elbows. Continue scanning down to our hands, all the while giving thank you for the water element that is represented by our arms and our hands. These will bring balance to our life, left and right, good and bad, compassion and wisdom. And our hands are held with our right hand in the palm of our left, with our thumbs gently touching to form a bridge. And that is sat in our lap just below our navel. Continue scanning back up our arms now, our forearms to our elbows, up our upper arms to our shoulders, rejoining at the neck. Keep scanning up our neck, the back of our head, to the crown, where we can imagine a small piece of string attached to our crown, pulling us upwards ever so gently, so that our back and neck are straight. And this also forces our chin to be tucked in a little bit, because as our crown is pulled up, our head tilts forward just that tiny bit and tucks our chin in. Continue scanning over the top of our head, down our forehead, down our eyes, which are usually half open, half closed. I personally find it much easier to close them. Down our nose, down to our mouth. Here our tongue is on the roof of our mouth, just behind our front teeth. And we put a slight smile on our lips. A Mona Lisa smile, I call it. But this brings joy and energy again to our practice. And we finish with our chin just checking that it is tucked in and we're in that nice straight posture. All the while giving thanks for our head and all our senses there contained, for this represents the air element, which brings wisdom to our practice. Now we scan back down again, our chin, mouth, nose, eyes, forehead, head and crown, down the back of our neck, again giving thanks for this air element, down our neck to our shoulders, down our arms, all the way down to our hands, checking our posture, giving thanks for this water element that brings us balance. Scanning back up our arms to our shoulders, down our spine, checking we are straight, but not too rigid that we will get sore. We can sit like this for at least an hour without getting too rigid or sore. Giving thanks now for that fire element that brings energy to our practice. Down our hips, down our legs, all the way down past our knees to our feet, giving thanks for this earth element and the stability it brings. That's one body scan. One body scan is all the way up to our chin and all the way back down again. It's usually done a fair bit quicker than I did because I was talking and explaining each part. But now I'll leave you on your own for a few minutes to scan up and down, checking your posture and being grateful for your body. take a mini break there and attend to anything that urgently needs attention. And we do that, we take regular mini breaks so that we can then return to our meditation with renewed energy and focus. Mini breaks are just as important as the sitting itself. So while you're new to meditation, I would suggest you take a mini break every six counts or 6 body scans. As you get more practice and can sit for longer, you can increase that up to 10, 15, 21. But no matter how experienced you get, mini breaks are still taken. Maybe only every half hour, but they are still taken. So now we will return to our meditation, this time with a focus on our breath. The beautiful thing about body scanning and breath meditation is that we can do them anywhere, anytime, because both those things are always with us. So let's start by simply breaking down our breath into the component parts. Focus on our breath either coming into our nose, or you may like to focus on your chest rising and falling, or possibly your tummy, your abdomen rising and falling. Always breathing through our nose. After we've settled for a little bit and we can get our focus, let's try to find the beginning of the inhalation. And we'll notice that the beginning starts off slow and small, but steadily increases as we breathe in, increases in speed and volume. But once we hit the middle of the inhalation, it slows down again, starting to taper off towards the end. So in my mind, it has a shape a bit like a football, tapered at each end, fat in the middle. And as we come to the end of the inhalation, quickly changes to the beginning of the abiding, the beginning of the pause. And let's see if we can notice the beginning, the middle, and the end of that abiding. Once we get the end, it quickly changes into the beginning of the exhalation. And again, usually starts off slow in speed and volume, but quickly moves faster until the middle of our exhalation, when again it changes and starts tapering off towards the end. Again, a bit shaped like a football in my mind. But you don't need to add any shape to it, it's just how I think about it. And then at the bottom of the exhalation, there may be another pause or there may not. This may turn directly into the next inhalation. So with your mind focused either on your nose or your chest or abdomen, wherever you wish, see if you can notice those 9 component parts. Beginning of the inhalation, the faster middle, and then the tapering off of the end of the inhalation. There's 3 there. The beginning, the middle, and the end of the abiding, the pause at the top of the inhalation. That's 6. And then the beginning of the exhalation, increasing rapidly to getting rid of all the air out of our lungs, and then slowly turning to taper off to the end of the exhalation, making 9. Don't try to change your breathing at all. Let your body do what it has been doing for years. All your job is to watch and notice. No judgment, no right or wrong, just watch. Now I'll leave you to it for a few moments. You might like to have a quick check of your posture and review where your mind is. Did it escape you and start thinking about tomorrow? It's okay if it did, but gently bring it back to the focus of your meditation, which is your breath. Don't judge yourself as not being able to meditate. Just gently bring your mind back to your breath and continue watching. One last time, you might want to just check your posture and check where your mind is. If it has wandered off yet again, bring it gently back to your focus of meditation without judgment, without concern. Put it back on the focus of your meditation, which at the moment is your breath. Let's take a mini break there to attend to anything that may urgently need your attention. Just 30 seconds or so. And as I said, mini breaks are important because they allow you to take care of urgent matters and then rededicate your focus to doing more meditation. Just sitting and trying to push will do more harm than actually taking a little mini break, attending to issues and rededicating your focus. And so for the last few moments of today's meditation, we'll stay with the breath. We'll do the qualified round of breathing, where we breathe in the love of the universe and breathe out any negative feelings that you need to get rid of. I'll leave that one up to you. But now as we breathe in, we visualize a bright, brilliant white light traveling into our bodies on that breath. We visualize it filling our bodies to the very brim as we breathe all the way in. And now as we hit the abiding at the top of the inhalation, that brilliant white light explodes to all corners of our body and changes to a magnificent red. Fills our body completely, touches every single cell in our entire existence. And as we start to breathe out now, we imagine a dark blue light. It can be any dark color you like really, but dark blue leaving our body, exiting our body through our nose, maybe as a cloud, and drifting off into the universe and is gone. It won't come back. Now breathing in that brilliant white light this time, visualize that it is containing love and compassion from the universe. So see that light, see the love, feel the love entering your body, feel that compassion filling your lungs all the way up with that bright, white, brilliant love. Now as we hit the abiding, it changes to that brilliant red, and we feel that compassion enter our body, enter every single cell. Feels divine. Now as we exhale and that dark smoke leaves our body, place on it any negative emotion you need to get rid of. Regret, fear, hatred, sadness, whatever you need to remove from your body, let it go. Feel it actually leaving your body. Know that you can just let it go. You're the only one holding on to it. And watch it drift off into the universe, never to come back. As we breathe in more beauty, more love, more compassion. Let it fill your body. Let it overwhelm you. Smile. It is glorious. And it changes to brilliant red and fills our entire body, every single cell. Now breathing out regret, sadness, anger, whatever it is you need to get rid of. See it leaving your body. Feel it leaving your body. Drop your shoulders, relax into it, let it go. And know, cognitively, intellectually, that you can just let it go. It works. The universe wants it, will accept it. It'll take all your negative emotions. And as now we breathe in and breathe out, work hard to stay focused on that light, those colors, and those feelings. I'll leave you to it for the next few moments. If all of that work is too much, all three colors, all three parts of your breath might be a little too much. It certainly was for me for a long time. I suggest just focus on the inhalation. Just focus on breathing in love, breathing in compassion. Let the other two parts just happen. And once you're full up with compassion, then maybe switch to the abiding and just focus for a few rounds of breath on just the red abiding. And once you feel you've really taken that compassion and love into your body in every single cell, then switch to the exhalation. And really just focus on letting go of whatever negative energy you're hanging on to. Now do the breath. See the breath. Feel the energy and know that you can take from the universe as much compassion as you wish. The universe has a limitless amount, and know that you can give it as much negative energy as you wish. It's happy to receive all your negative energy. You can just let it go. Now in your own time, you can bring yourself back into the room, into this wonderful technology we call the internet. Maybe give thanks for your time that you gave to yourself so far this morning. Giving time to yourself is not selfish. If you wish to do good by anybody else in this universe, you must first look after yourself, because you're no good to anyone else if you fall over, literally or metaphorically. Now we'll say the prayers to request teachings. According to the intelligence and predisposition of each being, we ask that you turn the Dharma wheel of great, low, and common vehicles. Thank you. I hope that was beneficial in not only revising some of the technique, but in also making a meaningful session that you now feel better because of. So my talk today is on death and dying. And I thought I would talk about death and dying today because throughout my travels just in the last few months, I've bumped into this topic a few times. I do a couple of days a week at some of the hospitals around me. So I spend a day at Goulburn Hospital and a day at Calvary Hospital here in Canberra. That one's only just started. I've been at the Goulburn Hospital for a few months now, and we'll just start a day a week at the Calvary Hospital, just visiting patients, talking to them, hopefully encouraging them to keep their spirits up, offering to do some meditation with them or some prayers. And particularly with major surgery or the elderly, this death and dying comes up. And we've been talking about it a fair bit, so I just thought I'd talk about it today and see if it helps anybody. So let me first start with the Buddhist perspective, and let me start with a bit of a story. So one day, a Buddhist monk, a bhikkhuni, a bhikkhu, sat down under a tree to take a rest and to meditate. As he did, he paused and looked all around him. When he did, he began to notice just how beautiful the countryside was. He saw the circle of life all around him. Everything seemed beautiful. Flowers bloomed, and the leaves caught the sun. But in the midst of all of this life and beauty, he also saw grave unhappiness. The flowers he watched bloom eventually withered and died. He saw a farmer beating an ox in the field. He saw a bird eating a worm, and then an eagle eating this bird. Deeply troubled, he wondered why life must turn into death, and why living creatures destroyed and killed each other for sustenance. So during his enlightenment, the Buddha found the answer to these questions. Through his meditation, Buddha realized that everything in the physical world, including mental activity and psychological experiences, is marked by three characteristics. The first characteristic that Buddha realized is that everything is always in process. According to his teachings, life can be compared to a river. Just like water molecules joining together and give the appearance of one continuous flow, life is actually a successive series of different moments joined together to give the impression of a single experience. But in reality, our lives and everything all around us is actually changing every moment. So this is generally called impermanence. Everything is impermanent. So this is even true at a cellular level. We know that cells and all living bodies are consistently dying off, dividing themselves, regenerating, and this is true energetically as well. Our lives are continually shaped by causes and effects, and we move from one state of existence to another. The river of yesterday is not the same river of today. The river in this moment is not going to be the same as the river of the next moment. Now, what in the world does this mean? Well, it means that everything is impermanent. As I said, everything from concrete structures to the universe itself, relationships, ideas, and opinions, world powers, careers, and yes, even you and me. One day this body will die. I actually saw a little segment on the news the other day talking about how rats are making a bit of a comeback and vengeance in big cities throughout the world because of the various lockdowns. People are staying indoors. So nature, in a way, is slowly taking back over. Well, maybe even quickly taking back over. It's only been, a year, and there's already like an 80% increase in the rat population in some of these big cities. So things are always changing. So maybe you hear this and you say, well, I know what to do. On some level, we do. On some level, we all know that this life is not going to go forever. And the problem is that for most of us, it's pretty terrifying. It's pretty scary. We don't really want to die. So we cling to things with the hope that they are permanent, because as long as we're alive, we want them to go on. I think this is very normal. We enjoy living, the vast majority of us, and we want to go on. So no matter how much you can intellectually realize that we will die, and no matter how much you sort of meditate on the fact that, this body is pretty gross and it'll fall apart one day and turn back to worms, or for the worms, unless we become truly enlightened, there's some part of us that still will continue to cling. I have a dog. I haven't had a dog before in my adult life. I haven't had her for too long, but she's pretty much my best friend. I really, really love her and taking her for walks and playing with her, teaching her tricks and things. And it makes me really sad to think about that. She'll have a much shorter lifespan than me, usually, hopefully. Well, not hope. Well, I don't mean hopefully that she'll die before me. Hopefully, I won't die. See, there's me clinging again. I don't want to die in the next few years. But yeah, probably she's going to die before me, and that makes me pretty sad. But what that does mean is that if I accept this, if I accept the reality that dogs have a relatively short lifespan compared to us humans, then I will spend every day being just that little bit more mindful with her, caring for her a little bit more carefully, making sure I feed her healthy, good food, and playing with her, teaching her tricks to keep her safe and to keep her sort of mind occupied, and looking after her to the absolute best of my abilities. And I guess that's what being mindful of death is about. I've had some people tell me that Buddhism is fairly morbid. We focus on death a lot. But that's only half the story, because yes, I think Buddhism does focus on death, because we want to be mindful that today is precious and that everything ends. Even the beautiful cup of tea or coffee that we have in the morning will eventually be gone. So enjoy it. Don't just scoff it down while you're doing something else. Really enjoy that cup of tea. So the idea of impermanence and no self go together here to help us negotiate death a little more easily. So instead of strongly attaching to our egoic self, Buddha asks that we consider the possibility that, in fact, we aren't a permanent autonomous being, but a work in progress, a part of the entire universal river. Much of what makes us, us, is influenced by context, time, our environment, those around us, lots of different things. So we need to remember that everything about you is in constant flux, from the trillions of cells you make up your body to the multitude of processes that create thought, emotions, reactions, opinions, and beliefs. So why does this matter? Well, the Buddha taught that suffering arises out of feeling separate, and a strong attachment to self produces harmful thoughts of me and mine, selfish desires, cravings, attachments, hatred, conceit, pride, and many of those other problematic sort of feelings that can go on to make us behave unskillfully are created because of this idea of me and mine and a separate identity. So to the degree that we identify as an individual fixed self, we give rise to an intense sense of separation. Now, Tara Brach, I don't know if you know her, but she's a meditation teacher and a psychologist also. She wrote a really nice book called A Radical Acceptance. And in it, she articulates how living inside of a contracted and isolated self amplifies feelings of vulnerability and fear, grasping and aversion. So from a psychological perspective, it matches what the Buddha was saying. So when inevitable death comes knocking, we take it personally. We're diagnosed with a disease and we sort of perceive that it's unpleasant. Therefore, we take it personally. Therefore, we must be unpleasant or we must have a problem. So why is death happening to me? Well, it's not happening to you. It just happens. Okay, why did I get sick? Well, you personally are not getting sick, just the body's getting sick, and that's just what happens. Birth, old age, sickness, death happens to everything. So try not to take it personally. So if we believe that everything that happens to us is a reflection of us, when something seems wrong, we come to the only sort of natural conclusion that seems possible. The source of what's wrong must be me. That's not right. This can also happen to a caregiver when the person does eventually die. Because you imagine you're in charge of looking after this person, you're there to care for them, and they go and die. Could easily sort of make a link between I didn't do my job properly, I didn't care for them well enough. But everybody will eventually die, no matter how much you care for them. So unless you actually gave them the wrong medication or left them sitting in a car for 16 hours, it's not your fault as the caregiver. Do the best you can, knowing that eventually you will die. It makes me turn my mind to those palliative care nurses that I've met, and I just think how incredible, how unbelievably incredible human beings they are, that they care day after day for these people who they know are going to die, and they don't take it personally. Well, many of them don't anyway. They do their best, they make them comfortable, and then they let them go. So even Einstein once said, a human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in time and space. He experiences himself, his thoughts and feelings as something separate from the rest, a kind of optical illusion of consciousness. So this delusion is a prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affections for a few persons nearest us. Our take must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole nature and its beauty. So if we see ourselves as part of the universe, this separation is not quite so there, not quite so strong, and therefore this taking everything personally is not quite so strong, and therefore the impact of sickness, aging and dying will be not quite so strong. That's the formula, I guess. So these two truths I've just discussed are two of the three marks of existence as taught by Buddha. So if we can study these, understand these, and then practice them through meditation and mindfulness, we will approach and deal with our own death more skillfully, as well as help others walk the journey through their experience. As Buddhists, we still live in a practical society of the modern world. Most of us I'm talking to today sort of here live in Australia. I wonder if I have anybody who's not in Australia. So the remainder of my talk today is going to be a little bit about those practicalities. Okay. So the Buddhist philosophical elements which might help us approach death and dying with a little more skill and a little less suffering is what I've just talked about now. Buddhists believe that death is a natural part of life, and in its final moments can be significantly important as they impact on an individual's rebirth. So when death is imminent, Buddhists focus on caring for the individual's mental and spiritual state, rather than unnaturally prolonging their life to encourage a good birth. To that end, Buddhists' end-of-life rituals center around keeping the person calm, peaceful, focusing on the good deeds that they have performed throughout their life. And I actually ministered to a Buddhist patient in palliative care the other day, and having a little bit of a look at his paperwork, he refuses when the time comes to take life-prolonging drugs. He refused to do resuscitation, to have resuscitation performed on him. So he's got a do not resuscitate order. And he didn't want drugs, and he didn't want his life to be prolonged. And some people sort of, why would they do that? But knowing that he's a Buddhist and understanding these sort of philosophies, I perfectly respected that. He doesn't want his life unnaturally prolonged. It's time to go. It's time to go. So I'll say that last bit again, because this is something that maybe if you are in the position where you are dying, or you know someone who's dying who does identify with being a Buddhist, the idea is to keep them calm and keep the family and visitors around them calm. Because the calmer our mind stream is at the end of this life, the better rebirth we believe we'll have in the next life. So the more calm you can be as you die, the better. So that also involves sort of trying to explain to the families and visitors that if they're yelling and screaming and sort of going, why, do something, that's not going to help. Okay, let's get into some of the practicalities. So the first one is sort of related to what I just finished saying there, is to have the conversation. No matter what age you are, have the conversation with your partner, your loved ones, your family, your friends, your colleagues, whoever it is that sort of needs to have a bit of an understanding about what you want at the end of your life. Talk to them about it. In the Western society, we seem to have this idea that death and dying is a bit of a taboo, and we don't discuss it. That can lead to so many problems, so many unknowns. What do they want to do here? Where do they want to be buried? Do they even want to be buried? We'll get to putting that in a will later, but reading it in a will and having the actual discussion with somebody is very different. So I strongly suggest that you have the discussion with friends and family, particularly if you are older and sicker, and maybe end of this life is closer. So some of the things that you can talk about is, how in particular you would like to die. Is there a particular place that you'd like to be when you die? I mean, not guaranteed that you're going to able to get there, but is there a place? Is there a type of space? Maybe not a place itself. Who would you would like involved? Who would you like around you? I mean, that sort of adds a bit of pressure on them to get there, but having the conversation, you can say, if it's possible, I would love for these people to be around me. If it's not possible, no pressure. Is being able to feed yourself important? So if you get to the point where you can no longer eat, but you can be sustained through a tube or through other means, do you want that? Knowing that from the time you stop eating to the time you might actually die could be weeks. So for your family to understand that it's not going to be quick, and that your body will slowly shut down over possibly weeks once you stop eating, is a bit of information that could scare some people. So it is being able to feed yourself important. Talk about that. Make the decision for yourself for a start, and then talk about that with your family. What about receiving all available treatment? As I sort of mentioned in that little story of the Buddhist man I met, he didn't want to receive all available treatment. So do you? You need to make those decisions for yourself, and then talk about those with your family and with your medical practitioners. Do you want to be informed about your treatment and your illness? Some people are happily not knowing. Sure, they'll be told that they've got some sort of cancer, possibly, as an example, but that's all they want to know. Others want to know the detail, exactly what's going to happen. What's the cancer doing to me? Where is it? How fast will it spread? All that sort of stuff. So think about that for yourself, make those decisions, and then talk about it with your medical people, medical support, and family. And there's heaps of these conversation starters. I don't think I'll go into all of them because there's lots. having your favorite music playing, going on a holiday. All these are sort of things you want to do before the moment. So knowing that death is imminent, do you have a bucket list? Have you seen the movie? Go watch the movie. It's a good movie. So is there a place you particularly want to go? Is there something you particularly want to do, see, eat? So there's a lot of things to think about, decide on for yourself, and then have the conversation with the people around you. Because it'll be the people around you who start making those decisions once you're in the situation where you maybe can't get out of bed, maybe can't talk. I don't know. There's a great website called dyingtotalk.org.au. So dyingtotalk.org.au. It's got a whole bunch of conversation starters and ideas. Okay, some of the paperwork. I'll go through these relatively quickly because there's so much detail. I'm not going to give it all to you here now, but you can look it up online. So the first one is a will. You really should do a will. Everybody, no matter what age you are. I think it only works if you're over 18, if you're technically an adult, but do a will. You can do a will free online, or you can do a will relatively cheaply through your public trustee, or you can do a will through your own personal lawyer. But do a will. There's a legal will, and there's what they call an emotional will, and that sort of is more of an open letter to your family, where you talk about things that we just mentioned in the last bit about having the conversation. How do you want to feel? What do you want to wear? What music do you want playing? All that sort of stuff. So in a legal will, you can talk about what you want to have happen with all of your estate, all of your belongings. And the thing is, if you die without a will, there's a legal formula that just chops up all of your estate proportionally amongst all of your family, all of your relatives. Now, I'm not 100% sure what is meant by all of your relatives, whether it's just your children. And if you don't have any children, your partner. If you don't have a partner, then uncles, aunties. I'm not sure how that all works. But if you die without a will, it's just chopped up according to a formula amongst those people. So if you only want one person to get everything, put it in a will. An advanced care plan. An advanced care plan is another piece of paperwork that you really should have. And it doesn't mean that you need to be close to death before you write this. Anybody can write this. And this is, again, a document that you do with your medical practitioner more so, but it should also be given, a copy should also be given to your closest, sort of, whether that be your partner or eldest child, someone who's probably going to be there and starting to make decisions for you when you're incapacitated. So the advanced care plan outlines your wishes for your future healthcare. It relates to healthcare you would or would not like to receive if you were to become seriously ill. So that's why having an advanced care plan, even now, even if you're perfectly healthy and young, and you may get hit by a car tomorrow and go into a coma. If you've got an advanced care plan, it takes the pressure off your family of having to make decisions based on what they think you would want, because now they know exactly what you want because it's written down. So talk to your medical practitioner about an advanced care plan, or you can go online. I don't have the website here. I think it's just called Advanced Care Planning. If you just searched Advanced Care Planning, I'm sure you would find how to do that. You might want to also think about managing your digital legacy. So if you use social media such as Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn, you may want to think about what happens to your account after your death. And talk to your family too. Like if you've got, an elderly parent who's on Facebook but doesn't really understand it that well, doesn't use it all that well, they might not have any clue that they need to do something with it. So each social media platform has different rules for deactivating accounts, while some allow your account to be turned into a memorial page. I know on Facebook, because I've already done this, you can give someone else the authority to control your Facebook page in the event of your death. They too also need to be on Facebook, but you can do that. Donating organs and tissues. Okay, most of us has probably heard about this, but organ and tissue donation is possible for some people with cancer, and possible for most of the rest of us. So this will depend on the type of cancer and the spread. So don't think anything in particular rules out your body from being able to be used in some way, even if it's just for science and investigation so they better understand the disease. Next one is enduring power of attorney. So there's two types of power of attorney. One's power of attorney and one is enduring power of attorney. So in a power of attorney, the principal is, the person who writes it, and the attorney is the person who has been given permission to do stuff. It's not a legal attorney, so to speak, it's just the term they use. So if I was to give my son power of attorney, he has the ability to make all the same decisions that I would naturally make if I was able to. So personal and lifestyle decisions, financial decisions. He could sell my property. He could sell this. He could whatever. Go and use my bank accounts. So a general power of attorney allows the principal, so whoever writes it, to appoint someone you trust, an attorney, to make decisions about financial matters for you while you do have capacity to make decisions about these. So that's the big difference, is it? A general power of attorney, they can make decisions for you while you still have capacity. So when you're not in hospital, when you don't have an accident, you work together maybe as partners. And this can be limited. So a good thing I thought about while I was reading this was that if you go on a 6-month solo retreat in a cave somewhere in the Himalayas, you might want to give that limited 6-month general power of attorney to someone who's staying back here at home. That way they can pay bills for you, manage your accounts, manage some business that you might have back here. And you don't have to worry about it while you're sitting in a cave getting enlightened. And it'll only come into effect from, you can specify the dates that you fly out and the date that you'll fly back. Now, an enduring power of attorney, on the other hand, endures. Makes sense? And that works when you possibly are incapacitated. So if you get hit by a bus and you go into a coma and you're on death's door in hospital, then that enduring power of attorney will allow your attorney, your partner, your uncle, to make decisions for you, including health matters. And hopefully they will follow your advanced care plan that you lodged. Okay, and the other bit is, so that's all the sort of paperwork. There's a bit of training you can do if you're interested in. So I don't know if you've heard of, there's a death and dying unit that's free on Open Universities, runs for about 6 to 8 weeks. You can do that for free. There's some training on dying to know. The one I gave you before was dying to talk. There's a website called Dying to Know. There's some training there. Oh, and here's the website for advancedcareplanning.org.au. They have some training as well. So advancedcareplanning.org.au. Not advanced, no D, just advanced care planning. And the other bit of formal training, if you're interested in, is a death doula. I don't know if you've heard about a death doula. So a death doula or an end-of-life doula is a person who helps the dying transition peacefully by offering support to them and to their families. That's sort of where I'm heading in my chaplaincy practice. I've still got to gain some deeper experience and more training in this area, but eventually I will be essentially, I suppose, what some people call a death doula, because as a chaplain, that's what I will do. So this community-based role has merged over the past few years to aid in the process of preparing for death, helping with tasks such as planning funerals, offering spiritual guidance, and creating structured death plans. So on that spiritual guidance thing, little rituals can be anything you want. And what I mean by that is you might often go to a funeral parlor, a funeral house, and they'll have a list of things that they'll do, and you choose from that list. But you don't have to stick to just those lists. And this goes back to the first thing I said about having the conversation. So what do you want? And whatever ritual, big or small, that you want to have happen, you should be able to have happen. If that funeral parlor or undertaker type business doesn't want to provide that ritual for you, then go somewhere else. You have the choice, you have the power. There's no urgency and there's no legal requirement that you must do what they tell you to do. So some of this death doula training might be useful, just to know the ins and outs of your legal requirements. All right. And the last thing I want to talk about is sort of following on from what I was just saying there. The funeral industry itself in Australia is a little bit controlled by just a few large organisations. And it's come to the point where it's become fairly formulaic. And we hand our loved ones over to a stranger to prepare the body, to dress them, to organise the funeral element, the big elements. Sure, we have a little bit of an input. Sure, we'll sit down and discuss what we want. And again, it's very Christian oriented as well, around God and the Bible and what hymns you want sung and that sort of thing. But you can do whatever you want. As I've already said, there is no requirement. You can be involved in washing and taking care of your loved one's body if you want to. You can be involved in dressing your loved one's body if you want to. You can be involved in making the coffin, because there's no requirements to have one of those big fancy laminated coffins with all the brass bits. A thatched coffin is okay. A bare wooden pine one is okay. There's a new environmentally friendly one that I've seen just recently made out of mushrooms, and it decomposes at the same rate as the body. You can bury your loved ones on your own property if you want to, depending on the size of the property and exactly where you're located, etc. I live in a small unit in the middle of Canberra, so I would not be able to bury loved ones on my property. There are some rules and regulations around that, but you can still do it depending on where you live. So informing yourself and understanding your rights, it's very, very important, I think. And this is where maybe engaging the services of a death doula would be useful, because they know all this stuff. And there's a new community venture that is starting up here in the ACT. For those people who live in the ACT, I noticed that we've got someone from Mackay. Hello, Dee. And we got someone from Rockhampton. Hi, Ali. Where else are people from? Ralph, I know where you live. Hayfield. Hey, Steve. What a lovely note, Namka. Thanks for sharing. So I know here in Canberra anyway, we're trying to get a new venture, a social venture started up called Tender Funerals. And this is a not-for-profit organisation that's trying to put the power back into the hands of the family, essentially. So the family can be engaged in washing and clothing and deciding, and the family can even write their own rituals if you want to. You don't need to pick one out of a book. The family can be involved in all of that sort of thing, which is a beautiful, beautiful way, I believe, to send off your loved ones, rather than letting a stranger take care of everything and you just turn up by the graveside and stand there for 20 minutes and then walk away. And that's been my personal experience of the few times, luckily so far, that I've lost only a few loved ones in my life and been heavily involved with their passing. You know, you have a meeting at the church and then you attend the graveside and watch them be lowered into the ground, listen to someone talk, and you walk off. A few days later, you're back at work. I don't think that's healthy. I think, and this is just me talking, I know you've got to make your own decisions. Going back to the first thing I said is make your own thoughts and have the conversation with your family and friends. But what do you want? How do you want to say goodbye? How much do you want to be involved? What rituals would really mean something to you? I did a little memorial service a year or so ago, which was actually out in the bush because the deceased loved bushwalking. So we all met out in the bush and we talked about his love for the bush and love for birds and things. And the moment's silence that we gave was wonderful because we could hear the birds that he would have listened to. We could smell the pollen and the flowers that he would have smelt. And it really made a bit of a connection between the family and their lost loved ones. So it doesn't have to be in a building or in a graveside. And that's what tender funerals is trying to do, is put the power back to the family and go, what do you want? And we'll work you through it all the way. We'll walk beside you all the way, helping you take care of your loved ones' final moments and where you want them to end up. I think it's a beautiful venture. I'm going to be supporting them. They're already fully operating in one town in New South Wales. I can't remember where it is, but they want to get stood up right across Australia. So maybe you might want to look them up too. They're called Tender Funerals. And that brings me to the end of what I wanted to talk about today. I hope I haven't sort of lectured you too much, but I did want to bring some of those things to your attention, because not only does it dovetail with our Buddhist philosophies of how death is very important, because it means that we will live a much more mindful present life and therefore get more out of the short time that we do have. But it's also sort of some of the practicalities that we'll all need to face no matter what religious faith we follow. So I do hope that some of the things I talked about today have been very, very useful for you. And if you have any questions, please feel free to pop them in either Facebook chat, or you can send an email to mail@sakya.com.au. And now we will dedicate the merit of this practice session, and hopefully if I've gained any merit at all from this little talk, we'll dedicate that to the universe. So if you know the words, join with me. If not, please close your eyes and follow along as I say, by this merit, may we overcome the defilements and gain omniscience. May I liberate all beings from the ocean of birth, old age, sickness, and death. Hearing the Mahayana teachings, whatever merit I have accrued, may all beings become stainless vessels to hold the Mahayana teachings. Courageous Manjushri knew all things, and Samantabhadra did likewise. Following all of their examples, I shall dedicate all these merits. May the excellent bodhicitta take birth where it has not yet done so, and where it has been born may it increase freely without degeneration. Thank you for joining me today, and I wish you the very best for the rest of the day, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you. Go well.